Welcome to Mr. David Brenner.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I'll tell you, well, that's a true bio. What I'm doing here, I'm not sure exactly what I was doing here, except that I wrote a book, and after I wrote the book and went on tour with it, it seemed that people start to see me in a different light than they did prior to that. Because in the form of communication, which is mass television, you really don't communicate. It's a one-way system. You talk, the others listen, and they don't get to know you, and you don't get to know them. And the idea of communication to me has always been an exchange of ideas and thoughts. So I thought that while I'm out on tour, and I go into some towns where there's nothing to do. I mean, you just look for marks and stains on the walls of motels, you know. And while I'm in those towns, I thought instead of just sitting in my hotel, walking around, going to pawn shops and hanging out in places I like to go to, that what I would do is attend the local universities and maybe just spend some time with students, and it would help me enormously because I had to keep my pulse on what's happening in order to, on the pulse of what's happening in order to be funny, because I lose track of it myself, sort of in a kind of a cloister. I live in New York City, so I'm not really in the show business kind of community like here in Los Angeles, where I don't even own a Mercedes. I know that's hard to believe, but I don't even drive one. I don't rent one. So I thought this is a chance to maybe communicate. So I thought I'd just come out and take questions from you, and we just talk a while over serious or funny things. I just want to tell you something about the book, only because it gives you the background, and what he's told you is true. The book is divided into 5 sections: family, I know about my family growing up. I was an accident child and a late in life. Everybody in my house was on Social Security when I was born, and I mean, the fact I was thrilled when I saw my mother bend over. I thought this was a great thing that could happen, that she could bend. And then I realized other parents bend all the time, and I realized that something was wrong in my house. So I come from late in life. My brother is a retired college professor. He has his PhD degree. My sister has her PhD degree. I don't, but I'm very proud of them. There's no jealousy. I send them both money every month. I think it's a wonderful accomplishment. The second part of the book is about friendship, and it's very close to me. I'm still friends with the guys I grew up with on the street corner. Matter of fact, I'm having dinner with them while I'm out here in L.A. Two live in this area. So I grew up in a what's called a socially economic deprived area now. And when I grew up, it was called a slum. And I keep the same friends I've had all my life. We all hung out in a corner and got in trouble together, and we all grew together. Next part is about the neighborhood, which is about that slum, and then it's how I got out of the neighborhood, and the last part's a little bit of show business, but not your typical show business stories. So in those 5 areas, and plus I do mention I was a documentarian. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, I'd be glad to just spend some time with you and field whatever questions you have. I understand there's a microphone set up on the side somewhere. Is that it? Yeah, you have a question? No, you just set up with the microphone. So if anybody does have questions, you know, if you get up with the mics, it's tough to see from any stage, and or if you want to just raise your hand, I'll field them right from here. So if you want to know anything about me or about people I know, I don't know many people in show business. So, well, see, that was the problem. What kind of documentaries did I do? I ran the gamut of human problems, starting out with overcrowded prisons and an improper correctional system. It's poverty, the misconceptions of welfare, which was my last documentary. I did 115 films, and I won 26 awards, including an Emmy. The problem I had is that after doing 115 films on problems, I realized as I went out to do my 115th film on poverty and welfare that I had done 6 poverty films. And here I was doing another one, and if I stayed in the business, I'd be doing them today. If you dusted off my documentaries, not to talk about the quality of them, but as far as the content of them, they would still be valid today because our prisons are still overcrowded, our correctional system still sucks, people are still poor, and we still have a misconception about welfare. We think welfare is a black problem, and that's people who are lazy, when 95% of the people on welfare couldn't work if you got them jobs because they're the indigent, they're children, they're the aged, and we give a farmer in one community $3 million not to plant a crop, and we call this subsidy. And we give a community $1.5 million to subsidize children, and we call this welfare. Well, that problem exists today. And the reason all these problems, I think, in my opinion, exist today is because we really don't give a damn about them. Because if we gave a damn about them, we'd be concerned with that rather than putting up a protective shield in space to save us from getting bombed. So I got frustrated. I felt like I was banging my head against the wall, and I thought instead of trying to solve people's problems, let me make them laugh for 45 minutes a show and take them away from their problems. So I made the transition from documentary to comedy. And that's why I did it. Maybe you'll do a documentary and change something. Though I doubt it. Not because of you, I just doubt if anyone will listen to you. Yes, what else?
Mr. Brenner?
Yeah.
Over here, on your
Oh, I thought you had a
left.
loud voice. I'm glad you're on a mic.
I read in an article somewhere that you played a trick on Sonny and Cher's manager with the peanut butter. I wonder if you could tell us a story about it.
Well, what I did, I wrote about it in the book, and you would ask that, wouldn't you? I love practical jokes. I've always been into practical jokes. I was born in 11 months, to give you an idea, my mother. What I did, and I have a bad back, I have a pinched sciatic nerve, and I get a treatment which is very unorthodox. It's anesthetizing the ganglion nerves, and by putting anesthetizing by putting like Q-tips up in the nose. Very complicated thing. Anyway, it takes care of your bad back or any pain, and it's a wonderful thing. The AMA doesn't approve it because it's very inexpensive. And there was a fellow on the trip named Jerry who was a road manager for Sonny and Cher, and he had a back problem, and he knew about my unorthodox treatment. And I told him there was a doctor in South Carolina who could treat him, but it was also unorthodox, but it's a shame we're not going to South Carolina. And he came back 20 minutes later and said, hey, we are. Now, the reason I did this is because Sonny and I used to play great practical jokes on each other. He once stole all my clothes, I once stole all his furniture. I filled this room with helium balloons, he couldn't get out. I surrounded him with tall people, things like this. And I said to him, I think I'm a better practical joker than you are. And he said, no, I wasn't. I said, I'll tell you what, would you say I'm the best if I could get a guy to put peanut butter up his ass? And he said, of course I would. I said, I'm not talking about, a demented person. I'm talking about a normal human being. Self-inflicted. It's very rare. I mean, when someone's not looking, you probably do it, but it's self-inflicted as an achievement. So we made the bet, and Jerry said that, gee, he would love to meet this doctor, and I called ahead and hired an actor to play a doctor and bought all the equipment. And then it had to be in front of Sonny and his manager as witnesses that this human being would do such a terrible thing to himself. The only thing we decided was it was my choice whether it was creamy or chunky, so... And what I did is I had this doctor come in, and he was supposed to be from when I was in the Army. I was in the 101st Airborne, and we made up a whole story about how he had cured people's backs, the guys who jump, and you always get screwed up when you jump. And he came in and he told Jerry to first get undressed, and Sonny was there with his manager, Dennis Pregnolato, and Jerry got undressed. He said, walk up and down. He said, did anyone ever tell you walk up more on one side than the other? And he said, no, which sounded strange. I mean, why would anyone think they walk more on one side than the other? Anyway. And then he said, all right, he was naked. And he said, I'm going to give you certain things that's unorthodox. And anyway, to make the whole thing shorter, I got certain things, like I had man tan, which was a thing you put on to get tan, fake tan. And I had him put that under his arm, so now he had brown armpits. And then I had Pepto-Bismol and baby oil put on the bottom of his feet and had his feet tickled for 5 minutes. And he had to do this every morning. And then another thing is the doctor gave him a nose guard. He had to wear it, but only when he was indoors. Of course, air is impure. And then he finally, after going through a whole series of these things, and Jerry was brown and pink and wet and oiled, and he said, now this is the main part of my treatment. And he opened it up and he said, now tell me what you think this is. And Jerry smelled it. He said, gee, it smells like peanut butter. He says, very good, because it has a peanut butter base. And what you must do... He said, you must apply this to your coccyx, but try your best not to get it into your rectum. And he said, and don't ruin your pants, put a T-shirt between your legs. Jerry took a handful, and about 2 seconds later, I was the king of practical jokes. Yes.
Mr. Brenner?
Call me David. Oh, you have a woman's voice. That's amazing.
On your
Oh, I'm
left.
sorry. Sorry.
I wanted to know whether you have any aspirations for commercial movie pictures.
Yeah, I kind of, well, not, I would like to do one. I've never felt pressured. You know, I've always stayed on the road because I like freedom. And when I'm a concert performer, no one tells me what to do in life. The only thing they tell me is be on stage at 8 and be off at 9. Other than that, I'm totally free, and that's a really envious position. And if you work in movies, you got this idiot and that idiot and this jerk and this putz and, you know. And so, but I was always willing to do a good comedy if it was good. And a few scripts have been handed to me, and I thought they were kind of schlocky, and I've turned them down. But I'm probably one of the only comedians who hasn't done a movie. There's talk now from the book that somebody's interested in maybe a diner kind of movie, or else how a kid gets out and becomes something. I'd be very interested in doing a movie because I'm a movie buff. I love movies. I love to go and see myself up there, you know. No, it'd be a thrill. All of a sudden, there I am, 20 feet wide. And but if it was a good quality film, serious or funny, I would do it, of course. I'd love to make films.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Yeah, I'm not. You know, I'm not a prude. I like the dirty stuff as much as anyone. You know, the reason I do it has nothing to do with that. I'm a big fan of Pryor's and Carlin's and all the other guys, and Red Fox and Hackett and all the guys who use all the dirty stuff. The reason I stay clean is I do so many Tonight shows. I got to get ready for them, and you can't do dirt on the Tonight Show. So why waste the time doing it? That's one reason. Another reason is because I think an entertainer's job is to entertain. And I don't want to get anyone uptight or embarrassed. And if there's a kid out there, he's not going to be embarrassed, but his parents will. You know. If I work clean, no one's going to walk out and say, "Geez, did you hear all that clean stuff? I mean, I don't believe it." You know what? You know. And another reason is completely selfish. You see, I've always been an admirer of the classic comedians, who I think were the greats, the old timers, and they all work clean. And it's more difficult to get a laugh being clean than being dirty. I mean, any punchline with a good 4-letter word at the end, you've got the audience laughing. It may be embarrassed laughter, but you'll get it. So I worked dirty in the beginning, and a writer who's passed away now named CJ, when I came off stage, I was a comedian maybe 5 months, and he walked up to me. He was a very good writer. And he said to me, "You know, David, you're good enough now to be clean." And I cleaned up my act that night. So that's the only reason I do it. I'll fuck around like anyone else, you know what I mean? But not on stage. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Microphone. Yes. Someone else at the mic? Anyone in the audience doesn't feel like moving? I got a lot of favorites. You know, almost anyone makes me laugh. You know, I'm an easy audience. I'm an easier audience than I am a performer, I think. It's personal with me. The one next to my father, who was a vaudeville comedian, makes me laugh the most. He's the funniest man I ever met. Is Steve Landsberg, who's a good friend of mine. We started together from Barney Miller, you know, and yeah. And he makes me laugh more than anyone, and it's probably because we hung out together all these years. But I'm easy. You know, if it's funny, I'm easy to reach. In that aspect, yes. We don't have time to talk about all the difference between New York and L.A. Well, you know, they're opposites. You know what I mean? If you like night, you shouldn't be here. Because, you know, if you like night, and let's say you get hungry 3 in the morning, well, let's face it, you got to go to the ocean and stick your head and suck a fish. I mean, what's here? I mean, if you're into day sports, you know, if you like day sports, go play golf or something. I'm not into golf. I mean, I don't get the idea. You know, hit a ball with a stick, hit it again, it falls in a hole, pick it up, walk again. I mean, why don't they keep the holes closer together or something? I don't. So I'm a real night person, and I grew up in a street corner, you know, hanging out with guys and you know, hanging out, and I like to hang out to this day, and, you know, and I like the kind of funky life that I always had, except I got money, I can afford not to have it now. So there's such a vast difference. I mean, the West Coast and the East Coast are just entirely different. I mean, palm trees, Mercedes-Benz, I mean, we don't have that, you know. We got, and people, everybody out here have a nice day. I can't take that, you know. You know, I like someone, an old lady, say, screw you. I say, hey, screw you. And, you know, hey, douchebag, hey, scumbag. I mean, you know, to me, this is more real than have a nice day, and then you walk away and he goes, did you see that? I'd rather they say it to me. And the other thing I have a trouble out here is they ask you a question. When you ask them something, they ask you back. I mean, you say, can I have a quart of milk? And they go, a quart of milk? I always think there's a sign going up behind me, quart of milk, and they're reading. It's very difficult for an Easterner out here unless you're really into daytime stuff and like to be sitting down doing this all day, and I'm just not into that. I like to walk too. I love to walk. I go home to Manhattan, I hang out, I go down Soho in the Village and I hang out, I walk for hours, you know. So it's just what you like, you know, it's like anything else, it's what you like. Yeah. Did I enjoy the experience writing the book? No, I didn't. The reason I didn't enjoy the experience is they asked me to write the book, which I didn't want to write a narcissistic autobiography, you know. I was born, it was a snowy night. Who gives a crap, you know? And then I didn't want to write one of these dumb joke books, you know, 3,200 insults while you're driving. Yeah. And I didn't want to write one of these, you know, Johnny Carson Dearest or stupid thing, you know, the expose kind of things. Actually, I didn't want to write anything, if you want to know. But what happened, they asked me to write a book, and then I just thought of anecdotes. I really wrote it as a tribute to a neighborhood and to people who I thought were terrific, who just never did anything as far as the public's concerned in life, but they were great people. And it's from them that I became whatever I became and climbed out of that place. So I wanted to write it as a tribute to these people who were close to me. And that's what I did. I didn't expect it to take off like it did. It was an arduous job. I mean, I didn't realize. See, I get up on stage and I ad-lib. This is how I write, which is pretty easy. And to sit there at a typewriter pounding away and then making corrections and I can't spell and then rewriting, and I wouldn't let anyone write a word of it. I wrote it all myself, so that was also, it put a burden on me. And I was actually given over a year to do it, and 3.5 months I had it finished and out of the way because I just couldn't. I spent day and night working on it, though. I literally spent day and night on it. So it was a tough thing, but I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Brenner,
Yeah.
Why did you title your book Soft Pretzels with Mustard?
Well, the title comes from a street food. See, in Philadelphia, we have street foods that are particular just to Philadelphia. And we have cheesesteak sandwiches, very thinly sliced horse meat with cheese on it. No, the Board of Health once came and closed down the #1 cheesesteak place in Philadelphia because it was horse meat. We all knew that, but we raised hell because it was so good. We didn't give a damn if the animal ran fast or walked slowly, as long as it was good. As long as it tasted good when he got on bread, that's all we cared about. So they reopened it. Then there are things called hoagies, which are Italian sandwiches. It's gabagool and goudaguine meats and lettuce and tomato and all kinds of things, and it's scooped out bread, and it's a big sandwich and great sandwich. And then there are tasty cakes, and there are scrapple, which is made up, but we don't even know what. It's like pig lips and things like this. And Philadelphians like what they call, you walk and talk in Philly. Like if you really got to get something off your mind, you call a friend, you say, hey, you want to walk and talk, and then you walk and talk and you eat something. Soft pretzels with mustard was the cheapest, most filling thing a poor kid could buy. And it's a big, elongated pretzel that's real soft. And we put mustard on everything in Philadelphia. Put mustard on each other in Philadelphia. So you put the mustard on it, and it fills you up, and then you drink water, and you're stuffed for like a day. So if you don't have money from food, you can go a whole day on a pretzel. So as a tribute to the thing that kept me going all those years, I named my book after it. Kind of weird, I guess, but to name a book after a pretzel, but that's what I did. Thanks. Yeah. I see someone there at the mic. Anyone else? Yeah. The best way to get out of slums? That's the thing I probably pondered the most in my whole life and couldn't figure it out. I was the last one to get out of mine. Of all my friends, there were 45 of us in the street gang, and those who got out all got out before I did. I just couldn't. I got a college education. I was still stuck in a damn slum. And crime is the way out, of course. If you hit it big in crime, that's the main way guys get out. Sports is another way out. I wanted to do something I had some kind of altruistic thing as well as a drive to get out. So I wanted to do something for people. And I didn't know how the hell to get out. I would say to people today, is you gotta clean up an act, man. You can't go to, if you do time, you're really going to get screwed. You're never going to get out. You got to watch you don't do time. I'm not saying you should commit crime, because sometimes I guess people have to. But I think you just got to believe in it. If anything, if there's any key to it at all, you got to draw pictures in your mind. I went to sleep every night that I was a kid. I went to sleep and there was a cracked ceiling and it was a terrible bedroom, no heat, all that kind of crap. You know, you see in the movies, right? And I would lay there and all I did was picture when I had money. I'd see myself dressed up, walking down the street, you know, looking good, you know. And all the ladies from the right part of town saying, hello, David, instead of, oh, shit, there goes David. And, you know, and my mom and dad with a new car, and my parents living good, and everyone getting medical attention when they needed it, instead of just saying, well, someday the tooth will fall out, and the pain will be gone, and things like that. In my neighborhood, all you did, if you didn't go to a dentist, you just told some guy he's a mother, and you lost that tooth. And, you know, that kind of, you know, we didn't go to no medical attention thing. And I just kept picturing what it would be like when I made it. And I went to sleep every night with it. I walked down the streets making believe I had money, making believe I was somebody. And I just talked myself into it. I acted like it. I walked like it. I thought like it. And one day, all of a sudden, I did it. So that's the only thing I can think is you got to believe in it an awful lot. If you're not positive about it, you're just going. It's like quicksand. A ghetto is like quicksand. It's like cement quicksand. You can't get out of it. You really can't. Yeah. The secret of being funny, you got to be screwed up. No, the secret of being funny is something you inherit. You can't learn it. I got it from my father. He was funny. He got it from his father or somebody. You know, it's just something that's inside of you. You look at the world sideways. I remember in school, whenever I was going to get a 0, I didn't know the answer. Who was with Lewis in the expedition? Who gave a damn who was with Lewis in the expedition? So instead of just going down in flames with a 0, saying nothing, I throw in a line. You know, your mother was the head of the expedition. You know. I got the 0 anyway, but I got laughs and became the most popular kid in school, so I don't know. It's just something inside of you, you know? It's just something in there. Yeah. Yes? Joan who? Yeah, Joan Rivers, I guess it's a dual thing. Joan and I teamed up 2.5 years ago to work live, which helped both of our careers because it really, we really packed in the places for 2.5 years. And then I couldn't host this is a fun, I'll tell you a true story. I hinted about this in TV Guide. This is a great story. The Tonight Show called me up and asked me to host it for a week. Now, I was like, you know, really hosting the show a lot. I've done the hosting 69 times now. They asked me to host it for a week. We looked up our schedule. Friday and Saturday, and I believe Sunday nights, we were in Texas. Joan Rivers and I were in Texas. So my manager said, what are we going to do? You know, we were in Texas with Joan. I said, hey, we can't, you know, screw Joan out of a gig. You'll have to turn down a Tonight Show. I'm not going to take it, you know. What are we going to tell Joan? We canceled the engagement? If we can't postpone it, you know, forget it. So we couldn't postpone it, so we called the Tonight Show and we said, no, we're sorry, we got an engagement with Joan Rivers and we can't do it. So then the Tonight Show called Joan Rivers and said, how would you like a week? She had never done a week before. She said, of course. So I lost the week and a gig in Texas, and as a result, she was so terrific, and she is terrific, that she's gotten a lot of hostings as a result of that 1 week. So in a sense, we exchanged and helped each other. No, she's really terrific, and she has helped me. It's great to work with someone that damn funny, and she is that damn funny.
Mr. Brenner.
Yeah.
Over here.
Oh, I'm sorry, my ears
to your
are...
left. Did you ever consider hosting a show yourself, such as The Tonight Show?
Yeah, I'd like to do it. The problem you have there is, first of all, I don't think Johnny Carson's going to retire. I think if he does, he'll take the show with him. I think talk shows are reaching their ebb anyway. I think they're just about winding down. There are very few left on the air. And I think that when they do have a talk show and a host to pick for the talk show, they like to go with an unknown primarily, because it's like fresh blood. And if you notice something, if you think back, every host of every talk show has always been a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant from the Midwest with no nose, no lips. I mean, this is what they pick. There's an image in America that this is what they should be. And they never pick an ethnic type. You don't have a Puerto Rican host, you don't have a black host, you don't have a Jewish host, an Italian, hey, good evening, hey, what's up, you know. You want to see a good show tonight or what, you know. However, I would be glad to accept one. I am, and I can tell you this, it's not, I'm in the final stages of the first stage of possibly doing my own television series, a situation comedy show that I've written, because I'm tired from the road. Like I said before, I'm not tired of performing, I love it, but I'm tired of traveling. So they've asked me for years to do one. I've always turned it down because I love my freedom so much. But now that I can own it as well as be the author of it, I'm thinking of doing it. And that would be a sitcom. Yeah.
Also, what do you feel is the role of troops such as Second City in terms of providing future American comedy people?
In my opinion, Second City SCTV was the finest comedy show on television, in my opinion. All right? I love that show, and I hardly ever watch television. I love that show. Original and clever, and they reached out an extra inch to get to something that people didn't go for. I thought they were wonderful. I knew they were going to get canceled because of that. I thought the original Saturday Night Live was great and innovative. And I think they play an important part because you can see the guys who came out of it, Bellucci and Aykroyd and Murphy and Chevy Chase and all the people who came out of those things, and Gilda Radner, and it's wonderful what it does. It's a great stepping stone. They didn't have that when I started. They had the Tonight Show and Frost and Douglas and all these things. These are wonderful stepping stones for today's comedians, I think. Comedy actors, too. Yeah. Yeah, of course I like him. I got to see the new movie. I hear a guy blows up in it. I got to see this. Any movie has a guy blowing up in it, I'll go see. I'm a sucker for people blowing up. Yeah, I like him very much. I like anyone who's different, and just takes an extra step. The comedic mind. I love the comedic mind. I think it's wonderful. Not because I do it. I really like other people's minds. Yeah. Yes. My first job, my first engagement. Very good, very similar question. My first job was at a place called Pips in Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn. And what I did is I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I did 3 shows Friday, 3 Saturday, 2 on Sunday. It's 8 shows. And you had to go out to Brooklyn, and you got $30 for the weekend. And out of $30, you ended up with about 14, which is damn good. And that was my first paying job. Yeah. Hopefully I won't work my way back to it. That was it, though. That was an important job, too. Yeah. Gee, that was a weird thing. I was working at a club called the Bitter End in the Village, which is a very hip, you know Bitter End. Yeah, I mean, the hippest. It was the hippest. Yeah. It's similar. It's like the Troubadour was a takeoff of the Bitter End. And the hippest people went. So I got up there, and in the early days of the career, I was almost doing funny documentaries in a sense. I was talking about, real radical stuff, because I was kind of a radical as a filmmaker. And I was up there really knocking both sides. I knocked both sides of the political spectrum. I didn't just pick on the conservatives, I also picked on the liberals. What I found out later on is that when you pick on the liberals, everyone laughs. When you pick on the conservatives, only the liberals laugh, which says something right there. It's true. And so anyway, I was doing very hip stuff. I didn't know that a young agent had brought the talent coordinator in from the Tonight Show to see me because I had like a cult following in New York. I was a comedian 10 months at that time. And I didn't know he was in the audience, and I did all this hip stuff, and he hated it. He called it vomit material, and he said I would never get on the Tonight Show. And that's all you have to do to me is back me up against the wall, and that's when I fight the best. That's an old street thing, but once you corner me, that's when I'm the best. And I got PO'd at that, so I went out to prove that how wrong he was, and I spent the next few months, 7 months, really working and grinding to get a good Tonight Show together. And then I went up and I auditioned, cold, in a little theater with about 30 people. And he was there, and I blew it apart. And he came up, he was the first one to apologize. He said, I was wrong about you. That was in December, January 8th of 71, I made my debut. That's how I did it. Just cold audition. Yeah. What else? Yes. Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. I didn't ignore you because you said something else. Yeah. I've never worked with him. I think if there's anything wrong with the show, it's not his fault. I think if there's anything wrong with the show is because they let him out of the starting gate much too soon. how do you know what makes people laugh if you haven't traveled around the country making them laugh? He didn't work. He was the brainchild of an executive who thought he was great and gave him his own show and then gave him $1 million to wait until he got the next show. And he really didn't get a chance to work out. So he's learning as he works. And it's unfortunate for him because he probably has a lot of talent that isn't going to be realized because, how do you find your talent? You have to be bad in order to be good. I went out on the road for years and I was bad in order to be good. Richie Pryor was bad. Cosby was bad. Carlin was bad. All of us were bad. But not for paying jobs and not on television. You can't be bad on television. It's not his fault if there is a problem. But he has a great rating, so maybe there's no problem. Some people like me and don't like me. Some people like David Letterman and some don't. It's individual taste. What do you think? Now, what do you think? You like the show. Okay, see? How many people like the show? How many of you don't like the show? Okay. Have I seen what? No, I haven't seen King of Comedy. They tell me it's kind of related to my business, and some people say it's not. I like to see De Niro and Lewis. I like to see that's a great combination. They asked me to be in that movie, to do some part. I don't know. But I had a date. Everyone has their priorities. Yes. Yeah, what do I think the difference is between starting out in Los Angeles versus LA as a comedian, and do I have any tips for someone starting out? I think there's a big difference. I think that everyone goes to New York. It's the mecca for getting tough in any business. You want to be the best accountant in your town? Go to New York and be an accountant for 2 years. You want to be the best hooker? Go on Broadway. The best of everything. You're working against the best. You're up against the diamonds of every field, every business. You're in the cutthroat dog-eat-dog. This is chew 'em up, spit 'em out time, That's tough. It isn't like, hey, let's drive over here and have a donut time, You got to be a mother in anything you do to make it. You got to be the best of everything. Even the gangsters are the best. Out here, it's like they miss. They hit them with a coconut. I don't know what's going on. When's the last guy they found a guy in a trunk with a fish in his ass? It doesn't happen here. So go there, get the experience, and then come here. And boy, you're really tough. And then get into this because this is where you're going to get discovered more than you will in New York. The other thing is, I think the only advice I'd ever give any comedian starting out is be original. Be original. Be original. And the second thing is you've got to have tenacity. You see, if you're a great singer, you could end up being nowhere for the rest of your life. You're not discovered because there are a lot of great singers, unfortunately. If you're a great actor, you could spend your whole life kicking around like Tootsie before you make that great move to become a woman and get a soap opera. He was a good actor, you could see, nothing, right? But if you're a good comedian, if you're funny, there are more brain surgeons than there are comedians. All you got to do is hang in there and you're going to make it. That's the luxury of being a comedian. The downfall of being a comedian is you don't have any band behind you. Louder, louder. When you suck, they know it. And that's the problem. But you reap all the rewards for yourself. So you got to be original is the main thing. That's the problem, I think, with young comedians today. If you want to know if I could take it a step further. I think some of them are very good. But you can't interchange parts. You can't take Steve Landesberg and Pryor and Carlin and Cosby and Henny Youngman and I, put us all together and switch around our acts, and I can't get laughs with those guys' acts. They can't get laughs with mine. They can't get laughs with each other's acts. But some of the new comedians, if you gave them each other's acts, they get just as good a laugh. And that's the problem. This is not a business for interchangeable parts. It's a business for individuality, I think. Yes? No, I'm not good friends with Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson has a few good friends, as I do. I'm friendly with Johnny because he gave me my start, and we're friendly. Yeah, sure, we're friendly. We could sit and have lunch and go to dinner together. Johnny's a guy who stays by himself, and I am sort of too. And his kind of friends he hangs out with, I hang out with mine. I'll tell you one thing. He's everything you think he is on television, plus more. He's hipper, brighter, sharper, funnier, more astute, more aware, more sensitive than he projects. That I can tell you. So you got one hell of a dynamic personality there. Be a shame if he ever went off television, in my opinion. Not because I'm doing a show tomorrow night and I need it. You know what I mean?
How come you and Joan Rivers don't perform in L.A. together and you perform everywhere else in the country?
Yeah, matter of fact, I haven't performed in L.A. Since 1974. I performed here twice. I performed here in my early days at the Troubadour and then at the Coconut Grove. When I played the Troubadour, I've gotten maybe 9 bad reviews in my whole life. When I played the Troubadour, the writer wrote that I should change occupations while youth was still on my side. And the review started out this way: New York comic, David Brenner. The next time I played the Coconut Grove, and the review started out, New York comic, David Brenner. And it ended up saying that I'd be better off using my voice to sell the LA Times on Sunset Strip. So I figured maybe I'm not going over here. I've been asked to play the Greek, and I've been asked to play the Universal, is it? Universal Amphitheater? Yeah, I've been asked to play that, and I'm considering it now. Joan and I talked about coming in here, but unfortunately we both got so busy with other projects we never got to play here. I'd like to. I'm thinking about it now, because I think I'm a different person, and LA's a different person. I was a little too fast in those days. You know, it's like, it's a little like speed hearing courses. Or yes. Am I ever bored by a guest on a Tonight Show? Yes, I'm bored by the guest. I had a woman talk about how she dyed her hair blonde for 15 minutes. Who gives a shit? I mean, you know what I mean? A television star from a series. And yes, and a lot of people thought I looked better this way. And after all, blondes have more fun. And what I did is I had to take the roots and make that man. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, empires are crumbling, lady. Yes, I am. Yes.
Since your humor does have a lot of New York, Philly influence, does that work to the disadvantage saying Tulsa, Oklahoma?
No, as a matter of fact, it's a great advantage. My first college concert outside of the East Coast, I got up on the stage and I said, hey, how you doing? And the audience laughed. And I did the old, zipper run, see that I'm not open, and I wasn't. I thought, what the hell am I laughing at? And after the concert, the students interviewed me for the school paper, and they said that, boy, your accent's so funny. Accent? I still don't hear the damn accent. And it worked to my advantage, I think, I think. Anyway, I played the whole country. I played everywhere except Anchorage, Alaska, which I'm trying to get now. And it goes over, so. Yes? My most interesting guest, I like working best with Helen Gurley Brown because, her subjects are always good for a comedian, they're fodder for the comedian. Sex under a rug and all of that. But Sterling Hayden was great because he did a whole thing on smoking grass. And here's this guy you loved as a big movie actor, you know what I mean? Big guy and Mr. America type of thing. And here he is with a beard and like, well, wow, man, sometimes you gotta spread your mind out, and so I hit a couple, and meanwhile it came out on television but it was a great interview. It's a shame the public didn't hear it. I thought he was the most interesting, and for me anyway. Yeah. What else? Yes. I'm eating a thing. I just bought it there. I hope I didn't get conned. I went to a doctor. I got a real bad throat condition. And he gave me these things. They're from England. See, I was using Sucrets. He told me it's harsh on your throat. Every doctor's different. They're all. So he gave me, they're called B&G or B&C. It's a thing for the throat. Keeps the throat moist. If you want one, I'll give you one. Yeah. The most embarrassing on the stage? Most embarrassing was bombing. That has to be your most embarrassing. I once worked with Sly and the Family Stone. Mistake? Richie Pryor had worked with them once and lasted 5 minutes on the stage before they drummed him off. Now, no one's a better street comedian than Richie Pryor. I mean, he's right down there on the curb, man. And the hippest and all that, the best and the hippest and all that. They drummed him off, and I get a call to fill in and work with the Stone in, was it Oklahoma, somewhere out there. And I said, what are you, crazy? Rock and comedy? They don't go together. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You know, people are listening. I got out there with such death. I mean, they hated me. They hated me. It was, some of them said, we love you, but waiting for Sly. I mean, things like this. And then some guy, get off the stage, Turkey. And I said, get on the stage. Now, he got up on the stage. I went after him. Right? Now I'm in a fight. Look at this. I'm working all my life to get out of the streets, and I'm ending up right on the stage. And I just said to her, I said, you know what, I got to do 45 minutes. That's my contract. I've never not honored an agreement, whether it's a handshake or a contract. I'm staying up here 45 minutes. I don't care if you smoke your legs, if you put pills up your ass, I'm staying. And all I did was think of things like, I just got on the mic and I'd say, you know what I want to do, later, I would tomorrow, I should call my friend Bev. It'd be good. And I just talked my thoughts. I did my time and I got out and got paid, and that was it. Sly came and said, hey, right on. I said, yeah, right on. He shows where he's at. Right on. Yeah, sure, right on. Being a father, yeah, I'm a single parent. There was a woman involved in the original one. It's a strange feeling. It's a mixed feeling because I've always, thought of myself as single and free and that. And I have a pretty good working relationship with the lady, which is good. So the kid I'm going to try and be a damn good father. That's what it boils down to, because I have the best father any boy would ever want or any man would ever want. And I'm going to try and do that for my son. But I'm not going to let him run my life. That's the tough thing, is to keep that balance, because I like to be free. I don't want to hear someone has cramps unless it's me. You know what I mean? Oh, he got cramps, he can't go, so we got to stay home. Forget this, man. Tell him to dump, he's got 5 minutes, you know what I mean? The eagle's got to fly, But I'm going to try and be a good father. I'll leave him a few bucks in case I'm not, Let him buy a father, No, I'm going to really try my best. I'm kidding around because it's a tough thing to talk about, so I joke the most about things that are toughest to talk about. Yeah. I see a hand or someone that pointed.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Brenner, you talked about all the other...
I'm sorry, I'm really... What?
You talked about all the other directions that you're moving in. Do you expect to be doing comedy when you're Bob Hope's age?
No. I don't expect to make it to Bob Hope's age. I like that. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait it out till one or two things happen. I'm going to wait till it's not fun anymore to go up on the stage, which hasn't happened yet. Because you don't want to do something that ain't fun, man. You don't even have one life to live, Why blow it on real shit jobs? I've had them all since I'm 9 years old. I don't want that. And the other thing is, if I go out and I see a hall that I was born a winner, and I want to leave one. So I'm not going to wait around until the...